Alright, part 3. Master Xeon here, continuing on with Project Logan. Now, in the last video, it kind of ended suddenly. I was having some problems with the video on the other end, and instead of continuing on with the video, I felt like I should probably address it. Nothing's worse than recording these damn things and then finding out they don't work. So this is what our head is looking like right now. Getting closer, but still no banana. Now, a couple of things that I noticed just staring at it is that the cheek over here, if we bring up the grease pencil, which this is more of an aid to myself, even so than it is to you, but the grease pencil is an invaluable tool whenever it comes to just planning out and understanding kind of your directions and whatnot. So, right here, damn it. Alright, let's try that again. Didn't get it straight. Hit new layer. Make it green. And we probably just lower the opacity. Now we see right here, we see in here that he has his lower socket, and we see out here that it extends a ways out up to the, the bridge of the nose here, and then, comes up, and then right here it seemingly smooths out and comes to terms with the shape, and with the angle shape of the, the inner eye area. So these are things we want to keep in mind, because by not adhering to them, we won't be able to get the real likeness and, put the soul of the person we're modeling into the model. Or at least this is just my thoughts. If it comes out successful, that means I'm probably right, but, whatever. Right here we see that this is flat, and this part kind of curves up a little bit. But this part, for the most part, is flat. And watch, you'll see when I go back to the model, these mistakes even more apparent. Now right here in the nose, this is a nice little bulge here, coming out kind of like this. So we're just kind of discussing a game plan real quick. If we go in brute force modeling without any idea, then, and this is just from one picture. We could look at both reference images and definitely come up with these conclusions, but these are just things we want to take into consideration as far as modeling, because we don't even have to adhere to the pictures directly. We are just making sure that we are getting these curves here, because his nose isn't so much flat on the tip as much as it is semi-rounded, so it kind of rounds off. Now in here, I want this to have its own geometry pretty much. And of course we have this loop here, the nasal loop, that just goes all the way around the nose, And of course for this part, that's going to have to bow out a little bit, and then the lines are going to come down. But hopefully you're getting the idea kind of what I'm trying to explain here. Is the pre-planning of it. This is all just pre-planning to help us understand the head more of laying out these shapes, which is something it took me forever to do. Forever, until I started seeing that everybody that's pro is using the grease pencil like mad to get these shapes down. Now right here we see that this is kind of a T shape. There's a hard T shape around the mouth area. That was one of the main reasons I liked this particular person as far as making the model, is that there are some very distinct shapes that I think allow for a lot of flexibility, but also this could be a generic hero character in a game or a movie easily, not to compliment the handsome fellow we're modeling, but the features are definitely all there. The strong eyeline, the eyes, nose shape, the mouth. You would just have to strengthen the jawline and make minor modifications, and you could easily turn this into your standard run-of-the-mill game character. But I was hoping to have a loop come around like this, going all the way, kind of like some goggles. I try to create the eye loops, and then the goggle around it, and then nose loop that's all the way around, and then have this part as an inner loop running in. So this sounds like it's really complicated, but this is very necessary that we discuss, especially if you're wanting to improve yourself as a modeler. These aren't just random whims I'm choosing here. It's methodical. And no matter what style you choose, the topology, whether it be for animation or whatever, like basically they all try to follow the same rule. I mean, you can accomplish a model with less and, skimp on some things, but we are trying to make a flattering model of this person. So I definitely hope that y'all actually try to model this same picture. So I'd love to see and compare and critique and just see how y'all do. So the chin has a unique shape. We do also see now I'm just going to highlight just certain depressions. Now, right in here, there's a dimple. Right in here, there's also a slight dimple. There's also one here. This is a spot that people tend to miss around the eye and is important. So we are going to be focusing on these areas. Also, the shape of the nose. We see that the nose has a real nice curved shape here. And this is something we also want to pay strict attention to. The shape of the eyes, and if we zoom in even further, just the way that the inner lid is seen actually going in to touch the eye. And the way that the outer lid is not shown going in, even though it is going in on inside, we don't see that. So in this video, we're probably going to add the eye, start tuning in the eye, because the eye really helps out the character. Now we see that this part bulges up slightly out here, mellows out right here along with a nice crease. But the crease is smoothed out along this area. We also see that the upper lid is seated over the bottom lid, and the bottom lid seemingly goes up and then maybe extends like that with a crease down here and disappears. And these are all things that we need to take into consideration and focus on. So if it seems like it's over your head, really just try to keep with me here, because this is the basis of just mastering human modeling. And humans drive me crazy. It's definitely the hardest thing to model. So here we go. We got our marked up face. It's not good for anything. Let's go ahead and just jump into model. Anytime you're ready to work, mouse. Oh, press escape to get out of draw session or whatever. And we're going to go ahead and full screen this. But we definitely have a good idea of what our plan is. And for the most part, we are following. But, let's just look at the model now and just compare it for a moment. This is going to be a long video. So if you don't like hearing my voice, go watch another fucking video. But in this one, not aimed at anyone in particular, but there are some complainers out there who I'm working on making it more interesting, but God, cut me a break. Alright, so we don't have this shape in here yet. The nose shape is still too harsh. It's like downput. The eye is non-existent with this loop right here. We see that it's flat right here, and then this part kind of curves around it while still maintaining a fairly flat edge. And the lips is a different story, but this video I'm probably just going to focus on the eyes. I was thinking about closing the form and all that, but we will come to that because we can do it at any time. In fact, we could even delete half of this and just continue on with this and not have to do a whole bunch of, I call it geometry Sudoku, to, get it all to work. So let's just turn this off and continue. So when it comes to making eyes, we can do it a couple of different ways. My particular favorite is the what I call the Angela Jeanette, which is inserting a UV sphere, having 16 spins, line of view. Now, whenever it comes to tutorials, I can definitely say I have seen almost every Blender video ever made, except for one, and that is the CMI VFX Mammoth Modeling Tutorial that they want to sell for like 120 bucks, but I will see it, but I haven't seen it yet, and it's kind of old and dated and made when 2.5 first started taking off, so I'm sure everything has changed, but it's still a very impressive video, and I like Sebastian Koenig quite a bit. Alright, we're going to take this in a local mode. Actually, we're going to keep it over here. And maybe we could just project the eyeball on it, just keep it simple for a while. And I didn't even discuss this part. We will also be modeling that. Alright, turn on optimal display. Turn on wire. Now the eyeball is slightly higher and slightly rotated, but we will come back to that. In the meantime, we're just going to get the shape of the eye. So that's where you bring this in. We're just going to hold shift, select each of these, and press F to make them a face. Nothing fancy, but having all quads whenever you can is great. I like to save my triangles for behind the ear and the mouth back and stuff that people aren't going to actually see. E, scale. Now this is slightly modified than the one that you would see or use in the Blenderella video, but the idea is still the same. Plus we can always modify it later. You can always modify anything later. Here, we'll take it to subdivision level 2. And I'm just control R adding loop cuts if you're not following well. And that will give us a solid eye. Now we bring it up some. We RX rotate it down on the X until we have this line up. And we want to give them a, not a dead man stare, but we want to give them a lively kind of look. So, once we get the face looking good, we'll probably get a smirk out of them or something. But as far as eyeballs go, we can do this one of two ways. Not isis, iris. It's probably easiest to just go on Google and look up an iris real quick. Nothing fancy. It's a 500 by 496 image. So that means I'm going to just use the snipping tool in Windows 7. In Ubuntu I have it set up to shift and print screen, but like I said, that shit crashed. And in Windows XP it's like Control Shift Print Screen or something. You can paste it in Paint. So we're going to go to Desktop and look for the project Logan, go on Textures, and just call this iSnip. We'll go ahead and open that folder, locate iSnip, bring it into GIMP. And we probably don't want to still, the exact eyeball, even though we're stilling it basically, but whatever. Might as well just come in here and just hit the levels. What color are his eyes? The real model. With this, what the hell color is that? Is that green or something? Alright, whatever. Not color levels. Curves. We'll start tweaking the green. Probably like that. Bring up curves again. So we're going to tweak the red. Well, you know, we won't spend too much time working on that part. We can always come back and do it later, but yeah, let's export this and we'll just call this isnip mod png export and go back into Blender. We'll bring down another UV window just so I can drop that in there, remove it, bring that back up and not, you know, lose this and have to switch back, but whatever, it depends on really how you work at it. We're going to Alt-R, RX90, go in local mode, and select, and we could have done a lot better job on this, but we're just trying to just get through this part. Project from view. Oh yeah, we do have to change it to the iris. You project from view. Alright, and in the UV image editor, we're just getting things lined up. And that will do for now. We'll create two materials real quick. Iris. Give it an image. Open. No. We'll just choose it out of this catch thing over here. UV, UV map, color, you know, whatever. We'll do plus. We'll minus that. Call this. My mistake. I always create the eye white first, which we'll later replace or add a UV of blood veins and all that. But alright, so we have our two materials. Now with these selected, I'm going to hit assign, change it to the color blue. And so we see over here that we have the look that we're going for. And we also want to change it to ward eye, so maybe raise the intensity, get a nice specular. Same with this one. And that'll do for the initial eyeball. So it's important to make sure that it fits the size of the eye socket. So the eyeball is right here, so we can assume that the eye is extending a little bit past the bounds of this. Could be wrong. Correct me if you're a doctor. Or you know. And we're going to rotate it down. And just pull in where it touches about there, because all of this is going to have to be modified to make compensate. Isn't that correct? Let's find out. So now we have just these two objects. We'll take them into local mode like so. And this eye is going to go back to about right here. Now in the side picture we see more of the curvature of the face and the details that we're going to be going for. These kind of details is what really sets this character off and makes his clay render look like his real one, or look like the picture, which is our goal. That's how you know you're successful. So we're going to use a mirror. We're going to make it mirror over the cube. And then selection cursor, Shift A, UV sphere, T, 12, 12. Here, let's just go in local mode with this thing. And we're going to go ahead and quad this off as well. This is kind of a lot of preparation and discussion, but it is necessary. Unless y'all want to just see me make a head and not learn anything. So press period, Shift D, S, Z, -1 to just duplicate. We could have faced it all off, but I find this to be easier. Select all, W, remove doubles, remove 12 verts, Control N, normals face out, voila, done. Quickest way, to me at least. We'll get out of this mode. We'll scale this down. Now this is going to be the glossy portion of the eye. So in the render you won't see a whole lot of it, and we're going to have to definitely remodify this eye. I just now realized we did not put the curve shapes in either of them that they're both signature for, but we'll deal with that later. Alright, right about there, and we can go so far as to put a mirror over the cube, give it a material, we'll call it eyeglass, file, save as, plus, still in the kilobyte, so we haven't even gotten serious yet. Transparency, lower the alpha, leave the specular, change it to word ISO, bring that down, bring the intensity up, turn on ray trace, maybe bring this up, change it to 3, maybe 3.5. Well, fine, maybe 4. Alright. Then the other things we gotta do, we'll just come back to that, but for some reason ambient occlusion and this material have some issues with the shading of the eye underneath and causes it to be really dark. So there's a series of things that I go through every time in order to fix it, but yeah, we're just not going to deal with that yet. We're going to just hide this eye for now. We'll call this eyeball. We'll select this one, call this eyeglass, make it unselectable. Select this, press period, and it locates it in the outliner. If you control click it, we can rename it. So we're just going to call this Logan face. Alright. Now we're ready to begin working on the eyes. Now let's see how much of y'all's time I wasted. 23 minutes, not too bad. Kind of a long time to just be talking and building eyeballs. Sorry about that. Couldn't be helped. So now from here, the real healing begins. We're just going to bring this all out. Alright. We're also just going to bring this part out. Just bring it in ever so slightly. Now for this part I'm going to use my favorite tool. Well, one of my favorites. And that is the snapping tools. The snapping tools are severely misunderstood and incredibly awesome. Especially if you're, into retopology and all that like me. Like I love to see how hard I can crunch a model down before I start losing my detail, but for this we don't care. We're gonna go for the gold like I was saying. And by using our UV projection, we're just aligning it to just fit the shape. Alright. Now from here, if we press Shift Tab, the magnet activates. If we press Control Shift Tab, we get our snap menu. So the magnet allows you to choose what you're going to snap to, because generally you have it as your increment, but we want it to snap to face, which means that when we press G, it's going to snap to whatever face is directly under my cursor. So put it here, put it here, put it here, put it here. And now you see it's intersecting with the ball again. No worries. Now we could have made vertex groups and put a shrink wrap modifier, but that's stupid as hell. It's easier to just not do that. So press Shift Tab, turn off this mirror, bring it out, E, S on the Z, well, kinda. Remember the thing we noticed about the eyeball. Alright. And now we're trying to just get a little bit of that form in here. We'll be tweaking this so much that nothing lasts. Okay, so I guess all these are supposed to be intersecting inside the eyeball. We will use the circle tool, middle mouse, unselect all of that. Bring this in, bring it down just slightly, just to give it just a little bit of volume. We can't fabricate it though, because we already know that there isn't a whole lot on the top lid. And so the eyes are definitely starting to look a lot better. So the next thing is the areas around it. So this is probably where sculpt mode comes in. Sculpt mode is just me holding shift and just smoothing things out. Just smooth them out. Because we know that right in here, go away box. Alright, here we go. We know that there's a smooth kind of line coming down here, but there's an obvious separation. Actually, jump back over to model, not scripting, modeling. We know that there is an obvious, bring up a clean UV window. Alright, sorry. Now we know that there is an obvious crease here, which we have marked out here and highlighted that there is this crease dimple. So let's try to put that in there. And I'm just smoothing them down. Except that this part needs a little bit of volume. So I'm just using draw. Now with the geometry this low, we are given a lot of control and can make some very drastic changes. So the secret is to just be calm and just handle it slowly. No rush. I want to bring this part out a little bit. And I'm just using a grab brush. If you're not familiar with sculpting, there is actually an excellent video about it on Blender Cookie right now about sculpting like a male bust that'll really get you up to speed with these sculpting tools in Blender. I have actually been trying to sculpt everything lately ever since I realized the advantages that it has over the whole process of moving vertices. Vertices is good to start out, but you know, in the end, you just want to sculpt it in there. Alright. Also, this part here at the top, let's take a look at the image. It is not, well, it looks a little rough to be honest, is what's the issue here. So let's see if there's a way we can smooth this down. Alright. And that actually offers quite a bit of improvement as far as smoothing out the form. However, with this little geometry, it is still small, but the better we do it low, the easier time we have when it's high. Alright, so the eyes, I would consider the eyes to now be officially level 1. Um, like, I look at these things kind of like levels, like, even with the modeling phase. So right now we have just the level 1 look, trying to establish the form. We'll create the shape, establish the form is my typical thoughts when I'm doing this. But first, establish the shape. And I'm just clicking with the, let's see, clicking with the draw brush, occasionally smoothing, but just trying to meet the, the requirements that I set for myself. And so we're not really adhering to the pictures so much as we were before. They are more just an alternate way to look at it. In fact, we should go into default and enable textured, enable wire, go to end, panel, and turn on all edges. And now we can see how the geometry looks at all times. So numpad 1 on this screen. Jump back over into modeling. No, why create layouts if I'm not even going to adhere to them? And the nose. The nose is something we're going to need to make some changes to. Press G, get the grab brush. Now, like I said, the nostrils still haven't been established, so there isn't a whole lot that we're need to do here. However, one thing we need to do is get rid of this and get rid of this. They're blocking us. Another thing to also keep in mind is that we have been modeling for for the whole time in orthographic view. At some point we're going to have to go in perspective view and face the music and make some modifications. Alright, and remember he had this T shape down here that continued around his jawline, but the T shape is definitely obvious here. This is something a lot of people miss. To be honest, turning off wire would probably serve us better. Let's go back into sculpt mode. Go back into modeling. We don't want it too pronounced on the T shape, but we do want to indicate that we are aware that it's there and that we are creating it. So from here, continue bringing that down. And so let's take a look at this area in here. Well, first things first, the nose may need to come out just a little bit, but that's just my opinion. Also could use a bit of smoothing. and shrink this up with F. Bring this part in a little bit. Alright, so now let's see what we got here. So for the chin, we did take that indention in mind. However, this part is still a bit harsh. D. And we got the heroic chin of the model here. And we want the jawline to go ahead and get a little bit of attention. Not too much though. We do see that it's fairly flat on the bottom, a little bit rounded after that. But alright, so we'll switch to draw. And we're just going to extend this out. Not past its bounds, of course, because that would be catastrophic. Well, for the appearance, and we know that, if anything, this has to fit within the bounds of the photograph. Alright, so we got the mouth and all of that looking a little bit better. You see that the lip tucks. We will come back to that part later, though. Now the forehead. The forehead on our model is round from about here to here. And we see here that the forehead is actually, bring up my grease pencil that I've been annoying y'all with. On the forehead, we see that this is flat right here. For the most part, it does kind of curve. And then right here, there's a triangle of difference where it's kind of shaping into this. But for the most part, it is definitely flat all the way around this. So these are things to keep in mind. Probably drew that in a way that makes him look like he's Mr. Roboto, but you get the idea. Press escape to get out of sketch mode. And let's go over here and make it happen. So hit D, and we want this part to come out, but we don't want them looking like the head, like the old MTV show, if you remember it. It's a creepy show, too, if you remember. Like Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy's all-time creepiest show ever. And after their new cartoon, worst show ever. Alright. And so we know where our verts are. They're obvious. It's the thing that makes him look like he's built for Nintendo 64. So we are just working in the shape and unfortunately hoping for the best. But let's look at it now. We go into object mode. I prefer looking at it in flat till at least level 2 has been obtained on all the face and the head is complete, but we will put it in smooth mode, and we already have a fairly good looking low poly model. This is something that you would expect to see in a different Blender tutorial, actually, made by noobs. The same style of head. And you put a subsurf and you would just call that done. Hell no. Far from done. We cannot do that yet. That would be a cop-out. But here we are at our current stage. So in the next one, we will begin completing the head and getting even more intensive with this.